Hello, my name is Felisa Tibbetts, and I'm Chair in Human Rights Education at Utrecht University and lecturer at Teachers College of Columbia University. In my brief presentation today, I'd like to introduce you to some strategies for thinking about how you might integrate global citizenship education themes into your own teaching practices. And the sources that I'm using today are those that were assigned to you actually for Module 2. One source comes from the Kenyan Ministry of Education, and those are the competencies that they have identified for citizenship, which are linked with GCED. The second source comes from Oxfam, an international non-governmental organization, which has been working for many years in global citizenship education and have some suggestions for teachers about how to integrate GCED, thinking about specific subjects. So, competencies, subjects, that's the focus of my presentation today. I'm now going to share my screen. Give me a moment to do that. Here we go. The key question, how can I integrate GCED in my curriculum? So as I mentioned, one strategy is for you to think about competencies or learning outcomes that you might have for students. UNESCO has developed a matrix of learning outcomes that you might use as a resource for thinking about which competencies you consider to be most important for your own learners to acquire. In Kenya, the Kenyan Institute for Curriculum Development, KICD, working with and on behalf of the Ministry of Education, identified 8 different kinds of competencies associated with citizenship, within which global citizenship education is connected. Here in front of you are 4 of those competency areas: information and communication, active community life skills, national and cultural identity skills, social cultural sensitivity and awareness. If you look at the Kenyan resources that are included in Module 2, you'll see more details about how each of these competency areas are presented. You'll also see that for each of these competency areas, they've identified some kind of indicators and then suggestions for how each of these competency areas might be relevant for work at the middle school level or at the secondary school level. So although the Kenyan work in citizenship competencies didn't address primary school, I think it would be fairly straightforward for those of you who are primary school teachers to adapt those competencies to learners who are younger. And if you look at these skill sets and awareness goals, I think you can readily think of learning outcomes relevant for younger students. These are the first 4 areas of citizenship competencies that Kenya came up with, and these are the remaining 4. Social and civic skills, a sense of initiative and entrepreneurship skills, ethical digital citizenship skills, and global awareness skills. I do want to note that even though only one of the competencies explicitly mentions global, for each of these competency areas, you would be able to integrate a dimension that's global as well as local. The second strategy that you might undertake for thinking about how to integrate GCED into your own teaching could be subject specific. What are subjects that you're teaching that you can already imagine you could integrate GCED within? Or if you're already doing it, how could you strengthen the GCED component? Oxfam International has been working for many years in global citizenship, and they have developed a resource which, again, has been shared in Module 2, which suggests some goals that you might set for GCED according to subject area. Now, they have lots and lots of subjects that they address in their work, and part of what's fascinating about what they have done is that they show links with even physical education, subjects that you might not think immediately could be related to GCED, learning outcomes. I'm going to present to you 4 different subject areas just to illustrate the diversity of ways in which GCED might be introduced to learners. So the first example I have is art and design. If you are a primary school teacher, very likely you are doing creative arts with your learners in some way, whether it's visual arts, drawing, or music, or dance, but especially, I would say, music or visual arts. You can use these art forms to help students explore how global issues and themes, such as shared humanity, diversity, and justice, are represented in art. You can also use art forms, different examples, to illustrate different kinds of perspectives. Geography is also a subject that young learners will be introduced to. Many countries, you have geography both at the primary school level and the middle school level. You can use the subject of geography in countries to discuss a range of themes related to global citizenship education. For example, you can help learners develop an understanding of global connectedness by thinking about issues that are affecting people across borders. This relates to a second idea that Oxfam has, that you can use geography to engage with issues affecting people's lives throughout the world. Here, for example, we can think about positive issues, for example, ICTs and access to information on the web, but also challenges such as climate change. Geography and the associated conversations about identity and culture can be a launching pad for investigating similarities and differences across places and people. Another subject area where you might link up with GCED and which might be surprising to you is mathematics. Oftentimes when we're teaching mathematics, we're using examples from everyday life. You might use examples from global themes. For example, populations, biodiversities. Think about global issues and data that you can use to illustrate mathematical concepts and processes. And when you're giving students math problems, perhaps you can think about giving them math problems linked up with real world problems, linked up with GCED. And the final subject I want to share with you is literature. Even with young children, we're reading books, we're helping them to become readers. Books can open new worlds to us. So use literature to help your students explore values, beliefs, and experiences of different groups of people and other ways of seeing and knowing. Think about stories that will help develop empathy in students for those in other parts of the world, empathy and understanding. And think about assigning activities to your learners where they need to be writing and thinking persuasively. I hope that you have found these strategies, on the one hand, thinking about identifying competencies and learner outcomes that you would like to promote with your own students, or thinking about subjects you teach and GCED, how GCED can be connected to those. I hope that these two different strategies will help to ignite your creative engine about how GCED can be integrated into your curriculum and your teaching practices. Thanks for listening.